Ferrari looked as though they were getting back on the charge for the championship, but the prancing horse fell short an early hurdle yet again last weekend in France. Hello and welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast, everybody. This is episode number 218, where we're going to be previewing the 2022 Hungarian Grand Prix. I'm your host, George Howson, and joining me today we have Phil Mathew from the Grip Strip podcast.
Hello.
Co-founder of the F1 Chronicle, Dev Tyagi.
Hey, guys.
And one of our Grid Talk co-hosts, Louis Edwards.
Hello.
So, lads, let's get into this race. Obviously, Max Verstappen got back to winning race for Red Bull in the last race in France around Paul Ricard. Phil, he's got a great lead in the championship. I think it's over 60 points now, over 2 wins. It's looking extremely ominous. And this is also a track that, historically anyway, has favoured Red Bull a lot as well. Can anybody stop him this weekend in Hungary?
I doubt it. I want to go and have a positive feeling about somebody. Lewis has done very well there over his career. It's one of his best racetracks. There aren't very many tracks over his career, to be fair, that are bad for him. But you look at Ferrari and they have great one-lap pace, but in the race, they're not able to put it together, or something happens, or they crash, or, insert whatever Mad Lib you want for how Ferrari figures out a way to give it away. Red Bull are just steady and they don't step on themselves. Even when they step on themselves, they still figure out ways to save podiums and do really, really well. Max will be energized to want to go and get on the end of the first half of the season with another victory, add more points to his, almost insurmountable lead at this point, without having a lot of mechanical issues. With that, I think he is the favorite, of course, going in. I would say that Sergio Perez will come back after an off weekend last weekend at Paul Ricard and kind of be the support that he's been most of the year. And Ferrari, it's up to Ferrari and Mercedes and whoever else wants to join the party to actually show up and make them work for it. Max Verstappen looks like it's going to be pretty smooth for him, not just this weekend, but for the rest of this season.
Yeah, unfortunately, it does kind of look like that in a way. And I don't mean that in any disrespect for Max Verstappen. I just want to see some sort of title fight. As everybody knows on this show, I am not a fan of Ferrari, but I was extremely disappointed to see Leclerc crash out like he did, because it looked like Ferrari, they could have got a run together, could have challenged for either championship. But it's a big old gap in both of them now, and, they've only got themselves to blame, really. And that's a very good point that Phil makes as well, Dev, the fact that, Red Bull, they don't always have the fastest car, but they're extremely reliable. And it's incredible, really, given that both of their cars retired in the opening race. It's completely flipped around. Ferrari are now the unreliable one, whether it's the car or whether it's the driver, whether it's the strategy. Even if they are quicker, you wouldn't really bet on them to best Red Bull at the moment with how they tread Carlos Sainz in particular in the last race.
Yeah, I think, George, absolutely valid point. I think it's about time that Ferrari call themselves the Scuderia box, Ferrari box. That's what they are essentially. How else would you justify pitting Carlos Sainz the moment he overtakes Sergio Perez of all drivers? As far as the talk about reliability goes, I think, again, you're back on point. Red Bull were the ones who were really bidding it. Not anymore. They have got more wins, and I think they have really hit back at Ferrari. So any chances of the Scuderia increasing that momentum that they got at the back of Silverstone and Spielberg, 2 sensational wins back to back, I think it has been thrashed, done away with. Red Bull have really hit back. And I don't honestly see how going forward at the Hungaroring, Ferrari can keep Red Bull at bay. Is there a chance that they really can figure out a podium? Probably yes, but a solitary podium vis-a-vis a Max Verstappen win for Ferrari is not going to help, is it? Because I think the lead is really extending. The gap is just too ominous for it to be ever giving Ferrari any signs of comfort.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Dev, completely. I think the only real hope that Ferrari have now is some sort of retirement for Red Bull, and it just doesn't really look like happening. it doesn't look like happening. They look very solid. They look very consistent. And in Sergio Perez as well, they've got a very good second driver too. But we have to give a mention to another team that have really turned a corner quite literally in the last few rounds or so, Mercedes. Now, legitimately, they beat Perez, both of them. Sir Lewis Hamilton getting second place, George Russell getting third, their first double podium of the season. Hamilton's second was his highest finish of the season, and Mercedes as well, Lewis. So around a track where Sir Lewis has won something like 7 or 8 times, it's one of his favourites, and one where it's very difficult to overtake as well. Could they upset a few this weekend?
I definitely think there's potential. Mercedes have been doing a great job of taking every single advantage of when Red Bull are looking weak or have issues, or when Ferrari are looking weak and have issues. And that came to the forefront last week when one of the Red Bulls was completely off the pace, and the 2 Ferraris were well, one in the wall, one at the back. They made great calls when they did, and they got a double podium, which has been well deserved, because while Mercedes have not been the quickest, they have been possibly the most consistent out of those front 3 teams. They are always there or thereabouts. And yeah, when you bring it to a track which Lewis is incredibly quick at, has always gone very well at, you would not only just hope for something good, you'd expect something good. And I think if, on pure pace, it's hard to tell if they would actually be up in the podium, but you can bet that if anything happens to any of those front 4 cars, they're ready to snatch onto that podium.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing with Mercedes. Again, like Red Bull in a sense, they're extremely reliable. They have had, unlike Red Bull, they've had absolutely no mechanical failures this season, resulting in a retirement. Their only retirement being George Russell's crash at the start of the British Grand Prix. That is the only time. They are always there or thereabouts. And Russell in particular, unbelievably consistent, always up there in the top 5. And Phil mentioned in a little chat there, Hamilton with 8 wins around Hungary, which is it's just ridiculous how good he is around there. It's ridiculous how good he is around a lot of tracks as well, to be fair. Hamilton looking at times as though he could have challenged Max Verstappen for the win in France, but in the end, Max and Red Bull, they just had too much pace. They opened the gap up. But you never know. They could spring a surprise, absolutely, especially if a driver's running into trouble, or they can spring another strategy call. Now, another team that are looking surprisingly good at the moment are Alpine, and they're up into 4th place, I believe now. Yeah, they have passed McLaren into 4th place, Phil. And Fernando Alonso in particular, he's been excellent, and we know how good he was around this track last year as well. And of course, not forgetting Esteban Ocon, who himself has been putting in some great performances, and of course, he won here last year. So again, if anybody can spring a surprise in the top 3 teams, it's probably Alpine.
Yeah, definitely, George. I mean, last year, of course, the performance that Esteban Ocon had to get his first career win, holding off the challenge of Sebastian Vettel and Aston Martin, was a great battle. I mean, the subtext was how Mercedes screwed up the strategy for Lewis Hamilton, and he had to come from all the way in the back. And then Fernando Alonso made his Renault a taxi cab, or Alpine. But they have it depends on the track, but they generally are that next team more races than not in regards to the midfield. They're the first of the midfield at the moment because of their point situation. They're 4 points out of McLaren, but McLaren, it seems like there's just races and racetracks that car does not perform very well. And they're basically working with 2 drivers versus the 1 in the case of McLaren. They do have a chance this weekend. It's a track that Fernando Alonso has done well at over his career, won his first career race there. And the stats show it. I mean, he's essentially the 3rd best driver who's actually made more than 1 start there. So, the chances for Alpine are high to get a solid top 10 result for sure, possibly get both their cars in to Q3 and then have a chance at a top 5 finish, top 6 finish. And of course, if people have problems, if Ferrari, of course, keeps stepping on themselves, or if, Red Bull has some sort of issue with like a powertrain or some other thing that could kind of creep up, which has happened this year. Alpine look like they're going to be able to step up and get some good points. So Alonso's in a good state of mind. El Plan is working for him. Ocon's going to be happy coming back to the track where he won his first career race. And I think all systems go for Alpine at the moment. I think Alonso probably would have wanted a little more, but to be the best of the rest, I think isn't such a bad thing. And it gives them a platform to build on as they get into the second half of the season.
Yeah, they've definitely improved since last year for sure. Obviously, you know, Alonso will want more. He's a guy who's won championships, won countless races, and got a lot of podiums too. So we want more, of course. But he also realizes this is a long-term project, and they are going in the right direction. And of course, they did get a good result out in their home race, 6th and 8th for Alonso and Ocon last time in France. Now, a team that have it's kind of bittersweet, the last result in France for them. On the positives, Ricciardo looks to have caught Norris a lot in terms of pace. They're a lot closer. Obviously, Ricciardo a couple of places back on Norris, but he looked passable. You know, he wasn't miles off. He wasn't not in the points. He was almost where you'd expect him to be, really, with the pace of that car. But on the other hand, they were not as fast as Alpine. The car looks a bit slower than it. Looks like it's lost some pace to it. So Dev, can Hungary kind of give McLaren a more positive result this weekend, or is it going to be more of the same where they're just trying to catch up to Alpine and don't really get there?
I think for starters, somebody like Daniel Ricciardo in McLaren should be hoping for a great result, simply because of the fact that should he actually finish in points, it would be the first time this season that the Honey Badger of Perth finishes 3 consecutive races in points, which is funny. It just shows the kind of struggle he's had. The fact that in the 12 rounds that have been held so far, he's only been able to score points in 4 races. But I think in terms of an overall result, an overall competitive result, it just depends upon, for the lack of a cliched expression, the kind of package that McLaren put forward, which I think of late, starting from Silverstone, hasn't really been hampering their progress as such. But I think Norris still holds the upper hand. And as you guys are saying, that Ricciardo is really catching up in terms of race pace with the young Briton. I think there's still some work to be done, but I think Ricciardo overall finds himself in a better place. But who knows what may happen? You know, Alpine still seem to hold the edge, because I think it's almost like Alonso of the 2005 and 6 is back. Alonso of the old is evident pretty much from the off. All these races, like especially the last few races. So I think the Alpine versus McLaren battle, should be an enthralling saga in the race that's about to come.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Alonso is on top form. He had an unlucky and kind of slow start to the season in some ways, especially in terms of points. But he's really turned it around. That car is literally, again, like Mercedes, it's turned a corner. But McLaren, we'll have to see how they get on. I mean, they're my team. I'd love to see them do well, but it's looking unlikely they're going to keep 4th this season, because they're already behind, and they're slipping further behind with every race, unfortunately. So we'll see how they get on. Ricciardo does look better, but yeah, he'll obviously be hoping to actually beat Norris in a race, which he's not done for quite some time. I don't even know if he's done it at all at any point during the season, to be honest. But yeah, we've mentioned the team that are in 5th, so I'm going to give a mention that if you give us a 5-star review on Apple Music, you can get a shout out at the start of the show. And you'll also be entered into a prize draw to win some free merchandise as well from our store, f1chronicle.com/store. So yeah, leave us a review for that. If you want to get some merch, if you want to buy some merch anyway, just be sure of it. Head over to the store. I'll just give you the address for it. So yeah, let's move on to the next team. Let's move on to Alfa Romeo, Louis. Now they've fallen off in terms of pace a little bit. They've not scored points for 3 rounds, which is disappointing for them. The car not quite having the same levels of pace, especially in qualifying. But if they can rekindle that pace, they can get a good result around Hungary, because we know how hard it is to pass.
Yeah, exactly. It's been kind of weird to see Alfa Romeo this year. They've had, you know, their bits of pace where we've seen some really great results from Bottas, and even some good, good qualifying, good race results from Guan Yu Zhou. But unfortunately, his luck has been in the pan in the last few races. Of course, he DNF'd in the last race, and then we had his crash at Silverstone. And as for Bottas, I think he's just really doing the most he can with that car. I don't think it has the relative pace to really keep up with the McLarens and the Alpines at the moment. It's more fighting the AlphaTauris. So yeah, I think they'll be looking to get sort of the lower end of the points. If they could snatch a odd point from some collisions. I mean, last year we saw one epic collision, but I think Bottas will not want to start that one this time. He'll want to drive past it. But yeah, I don't know. It's Alfa Romeo have been there's such a tough team to talk about because you really don't know where they're going to be from one weekend to the next. But I think they're probably due some points pretty soon because they're not slow by any means. They're still very much in this midfield battle, and they just need to be a bit more consistent, work on their reliability a bit, and hopefully that will get them some 8th, 9th, 10th.
Yeah.
Just to add to that point, Valtteri Bottas, I think he's P9 on the driver's standings. I think he has 46 points of his own. So it's a significant improvement where the 2021 fortunes were vis-a-vis where the team is at the moment, isn't it? So I think they should really move forward into the summer break after the Hungaroring with so many added positives. I think the car is, if not the fastest, it's really anything but the 2021 slouch that Raikkonen and Giovinazzi were struggling with. Just that point.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point, Dev. They've improved massively since last year. They were down there at the bottom. They were down there with Williams and Haas, and they're still with Haas. Haas have obviously improved a lot this season.
They were back markers.
Yeah, absolutely. They were looking terrible, quite frankly. But Bottas in particular, his qualifying pace has been excellent, and Guan Yu Zhou as well. He's been so unlucky with mechanical failures. I really feel for the guy because you know what, he is for me is the biggest surprise of the season. I did not think he'd be this good. I didn't think he'd be bad by any means. I just thought he'd be solid, if not a little unspectacular. But at times he's been really quick. Fair play to him. He's come into Formula One and he surprised a lot of people, including me. So more power to him. But yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on to the team that are hoping to catch Alfa Romeo this weekend, Phil, and making good ground on the Haas team. Now, a non-score for them in France as well, but the car did have good pace. I think Mick Schumacher got into Q3 again. And again, we've mentioned a few times, if you qualify well around Hungary, you're probably going to get some good points. So how do you see them getting on this weekend?
I think for them, it's a case of Magnussen. I read on Motorsport that Magnussen will have upgrades, but it'll just be him. So unfortunately for Mick, he won't have the upgrade package. But then we've seen a few races ago where Williams brought the upgrade for Albon, and it worked the other way essentially. And Latifi actually had the better weekend. But in this case, I think it's a solid track for them to make points up on Hungary, or make points on the Alfa Romeo team. But we have to see what happens with the new upgrades that they bring to the table. Bottas isn't bad there. Zhou, I think, has been relatively successful in his lower Formula days there. So it's going to be a tough ask. But it's not insurmountable if they can put double point scores together. Mick is on the board now, so we'll see what practice holds for them and how they do in the sense of the pace, especially for Magnussen, and that may tell the tale of what really happens with them. I think Mick is just going to want to consolidate, try to definitely get into Q2, possibly flirt with Q3. I think Magnussen is going to want to get points here at going into the summer break to give them the positive energy as they wait, or they take the time off to see get rest and everything. So I'm hopeful for Haas that they'll be able to score some points, maybe make a little bit of ground on Alfa Romeo, but it's really all up to the upgrade.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's a development race, of course, in Formula One, especially in the midfield. And Haas have not upgraded their car at all this season, I think, so far. So it'll be interesting to see how quick they are, particularly in qualifying after they've had this upgrade. And they've pulled well clear of AlphaTauri Dev, who are in 8th, and they're having a really average season, to say the least. They haven't scored in 4 races in a row, and yes, they are the bona fide B team. They are the second team of Red Bull, and they are a proving ground for their young drivers. But the lack of pace they've been having has really got to disappoint them, and especially Pierre Gasly as well. For me, he's really regressed this season. He had a lot of desperate damn moves in France, and they just weren't working out. They need a good result, but it's kind of hard to see them doing it this weekend.
Yes, George. Gasly, I mean, I'm quite surprised. Just 16 points so far this season. He's P13 on the driver's standings. Tsunoda 16 or probably 15. I think 16. This not been the year that the AlphaTauri team would have expected, and I think Gasly was quite vocal about the need for the team to introduce some massive upgrades, especially after the low-key result at Silverstone, which, well, nobody expected. But then opening lap skirmishes are as old in Formula One as last lap overtakes. But I don't really know when the team are planning to introduce any upgrades, because they really are very slow on pace and just not even a patch of where they were in the 2020 and the 2021 season. And yeah, I mean, just having not even scored 20 points this year, I really think that if there's one driver who's really willing to scream out of his lungs, then it's the ruin-born Gasly. Not really sure what's happening there, to be honest.
No, I'm not either. There is some pace in that car. It has shown it at times, but they're just woefully inconsistent in terms of, at times, the mechanical issues, but also just the drivers. Really, they've been miles off. Really, it's a big surprise. And Louis, it's not out of the realms of possibility for Aston Martin to catch him this week. And obviously Vettel, I know he was disqualified obviously last year, but he did have his best result. He was second place. He had some excellent plays. He would have won the race. Obviously, it sounds obvious, but he would have won the race if he passed Ocon. He was faster than him. So how do you see them getting on this weekend? Because Lance Stroll, again, credit to him, got a good point. Did very well around France, in my opinion. And these are a team that love running long on the strategy. And if they get a late safety car, they could get some good points.
Yeah, it does seem to be their saving grace is they actually have a decent strategy. Maybe they should move over to Ferrari. might work a bit better. But no, you got to give it to Aston Martin, because on a Saturday, they look woeful. They look slow. They're more or less out of Q1 most of the time. And then, come Sunday, I definitely am shocked to see how the leader was like, well, Lance Stroll's 10th. Well, yeah, and they're doing fine things on a Sunday. So clearly, there's more race pace than just raw pace in that Aston Martin. And to be honest, I expect more or less the same. I wouldn't expect fireworks on a Saturday from this Aston Martin, because I think just on a one lap pace they don't have it. But yeah, if they can make an interesting strategy work, as if there's a safety car, any sort of way to maybe get an edge on their opponents during this race, I think they'll definitely take advantage, and I think they'll move up the field. And yeah, as you said, it's a good track for Sebastian Vettel. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, up or near the points. And for Lance, it's kind of a bit of a dice roll, but if he can get in the points, then yeah, it'd be fair play to him.
Yeah, it's definitely not out of the realms of possibility at all. I mean, they do in qualifying over one lap, their car quite simply is woeful. It's probably the slowest on the grid, apart from Nicholas Latifi. We'll get on to him very shortly. But in terms of the race pace, they're not too bad. Genuinely, I mean, Lance Stroll, he was catching Ricciardo. He could have got 9th. He passed him a few times this season. I think he passed him in the closing stage and so the Canadian Grand Prix this year as well. So there is pace in that car during the race. It's just over one lap, for some reason, they just cannot fire the thing up. I don't know what it is. And we know how poor qualifying is around Hungary. So if they're going to need to do it at some point, it's going to be this weekend. But we'll see how they get on with that. And lastly, let's get on to Williams. Phil, I mean, I don't have to tell you they didn't score in the last round. It's not really a big surprise. Latifi, I think he spun out or something, didn't he? Retired from that race. He did not have a good race again. And Alex Albon doing all he can, but he can only race what he's given, and what he's given is not particularly quick.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were thinking Williams was going to take a step forward this year with new regulations and possibly being able to compete a little more with their relative competition, whether that be Haas, whether that be Alfa Romeo Sauber, or now in this case Aston Martin, but unfortunately that has not come to fruition. Alex Albon is driving relatively well. I think he's doing what they're asking him to do relative to the car that they have, which is not good at all. Latifi, we've spent plenty of time, not just myself, but others on this program talking about Latifi and his relative lack of performance. This was around the time last year that George started putting those Q3. It was in the summer where they were putting Q3 performances together for George, and then he eventually got those big points. But that isn't going to happen this year. There really is no opening where that seems like it's going to happen. And it's not. I don't think it's because it's just a car. Or, I mean, Albon and him are BFFs, but Albon isn't as good of a driver as George is. It's just unfortunate, seeing a team that has been a historically good team over time in the past, and the place where Nigel Mansell locked up his world championship after winning, I don't know, his however manyth Grand Prix of that season. And you think about 30 years later, they're in the back and they're just hoping to make Q2. It's a pretty sad circumstance, but I think if anything is going to happen, it'll be with the 23 car, and Albon will do it's a circuit which a lot of the deficiencies of cars can be muted if you have good grip, mechanical grip. So who knows, maybe they put a great setup on there, or they come up with something, pull it out of their hat, and maybe Albon can compete, but I have a hard time believing that's going to happen.
Yeah, it is hard to see happen. But if it's going to happen at any point during this season, it's potentially around this track, because I think last year they did get double points here. So they do have a good history around this track. And it is one that if you do a good qualifying performance like Albon has been doing, you can keep that result. But let's see what happens with them. So we've gone through all 10 teams, all 20 drivers. Before we get into the predictions, though, I'm just going to give a mention that if you want to follow us on social media, you can head over to Twitter, where you can find us at F1 Chronicle. You can head over to Facebook, find us on F1 Chronicle, and also you can find us on TikTok now as well if you want to listen or watch my weekly rant videos, my weekly 60-second videos. And unsurprisingly, I did go and have a little rant about Ferrari this week, but I'm sure you'll be able to discover that yourself. So head over to TikTok and give us a follow on there as well. But yes, let's go into our predictions. So I'm going to say for my top three, I just got a feeling it's quite boring, but I think Max Verstappen's going to win. I don't personally see anybody else. I think it's the bridge too far for Mercedes to win. I am going to give Sir Lewis second place, though, and I'm going to give a very frustrated Charles Leclerc third. I think that Mercedes are going to do them with at least one car this weekend on strategy, because again, we've said it a lot, but we know how bad Ferrari's strategy is. Dev, what are your top three predictions for this weekend?
Fernando Alonso for a top 5 finish, Lewis Hamilton on the podium, and Ferrari driver winning the Grand Prix.
Who's that Ferrari driver and who gets second place?
The one Ferrari is not really essentially considering their go-to driver. The one with more podiums than Leclerc.
Oh, really?
Quite tough one to guess. No, it's just a wild hunch. Let's see what happens.
I would not have guessed that Sainz has more podiums than Leclerc. That's a good start. I didn't know that one, Dev. Fair enough.
This year, yeah.
This season. Okay, fair enough. He has been more consistent overall. Louis, what's your top three predictions?
I think I'm actually going to go with a Ferrari win, so I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc to win, Max second, and I'll go Russell on the podium.
I think Russell does hold the lap record around Hungary. I think he did it in testing a good few years ago, so he's pretty good around this track himself. So, I mean, I was watching the race with my dad as usual this weekend just gone, and I said that Max Verstappen, he doesn't need to win these races coming up. He can finish second and it's still a good result for him. So I could see him maybe not properly going for it, but I also don't think that's in Max Verstappen's DNA, to be honest. Phil, what are your top 3 predictions?
I'm going to go a little different. I'll go Sergio Perez. I was going to say Red Bull, and I was going to go with Chalk. I'll go with Checo Perez to get a victory here. Of course, he did win Monaco, albeit it was because of Ferrari's strategy, but he did win in Monaco. He's had a pole on a street circuit earlier this year too. So Checo, then Ferrari with Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton gets third. I was thinking George there, but I'll say we'll go with Lewis at one of his best racetracks. Max, I guess I'll save that for the next part.
Yeah, let's not do the bold predictions just yet. Not straight away anyway. So, but it's bold prediction time for me. So I'm going to go against all my gut instincts, everything that I've said for months now. I'm going to go against all of it. I'm going to wipe all of it clean. And I'm going to go with Daniel Ricciardo for a top 5. He's been pretty dismal this season, to be honest, but he is good round here. He did win round here in 2014, one of his better years. And he's had some very good results over the years.
It's been a very poor season for me, honestly. I mean, I've struggled, really.
That's not bad, Dev. I didn't know you could do a Daniel Ricciardo impression. That's all right.
No, I think I screwed it up. I should just stick with Kimi. But yeah, no point talking about him anymore. So.
Unfortunately, Kimi no longer with us in F1.
He will be racing at Watkins Glen in a cup car here in a few weeks' time, so you have to bring it out back for then.
Is he? Is he really?
Yeah, he's going to be in the Project 91
Trackhouse
car for Trackhouse Racing, which is Justin Marks and Dale, otherwise known as Pitbull, Mr. 305. So he'll be driving for Mr. 305 in a few weeks.
You know what? That's amazing. I can't wait. You know what? I've got to check that out. I had no idea that was happening. That has generally made my day, Phil. Thank you for that. So we've had a few bold predictions from Dev already. So we'll go to Louis. What's your bold prediction for this race?
Well, I just checked on the weather app to see what the weather's going to be like. And it's meant to be raining on Saturday and maybe some showers on Sunday. So I'm going to keep my prediction for qualifying and just say Nicholas Latifi into Q3 in a wet quali.
You know what?
You're being far too kind to that man.
I say points every single week. And twice last year it came true. I can believe.
Yeah, no, I mean, you are very kind to Latifi, always saying he gets points. Obviously, I'll mention it every time we get a chance because I'm that happy with it. But I was at the Silverstone race this year, and nobody could quite believe what was happening with Latifi. Everybody was like, "This can't last. There's no way he can keep going in the top 10 in qualifying." And in the race, he was in the points for most of it as well. We were just waiting for him to slide out, and he did eventually. But you never know. It's Hungary. There are some real surprise results, and he did have I think he probably had his best result of the season last season too. Best result of his career. So who knows? Anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does. But what are you predicting for your bold prediction, Phil?
I'll go with Sebastian Vettel makes Q3 with Aston Martin and gets a top 6 finish in the race on Sunday at a track where I think he's won 3 times. He almost won last year. Then he goes and pulls that Aston Martin, and it drives like a 2022 car instead of a 1922 car like he drove at Paul Ricard last week. Maybe we'll see him do
that. Yeah, well, you never know. He is pretty good around here. He's run quite a few times, like you say. So we'll have to see what happens. Anything's possible, especially with rain as well. If it rains in qualifying, like Louis said, it's definitely possible. But the amount of times we've predicted it to rain during races on this show, and it just hasn't. It's too many to count. We have predicted it to rain a lot more than it has. Put it that way. It's not even a close number. So yeah, those are our predictions for the race. I will give you guys a chance to plug your outlets. So I'll start with you, Dev. I mentioned that you're the co-founder of Formula One Chronicle. Obviously, we know what that is, but you've got some other side projects as well that you're very proud of, I'm sure.
Sorry, I missed that one.
No, I'm just saying you're the co-founder of F1 Chronicle, which we know about. Obviously, we know what goes on there because it hosts this show. But I'm sure you got some other side projects as well, like your cricket site as well, that you want to give a little plug to.
Yeah, I mean, I began CoreAtPoint.com in 2017, but it's essentially a cricket content website, pure serious cricket journalism with no space for popcorn or clickbait reporting. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
it's genuine content at the end of the day. Like you said, it's not clickbait; it's proper journalism, which is very sadly becoming rarer and rarer these days. But definitely check out that website if you're into your cricket. It's a good one for sure.
Thank you, George.
Always welcome, Dev. And Louis, I mentioned that you're one of the co-hosts on this show, but you got a blog, you got a YouTube channel, you got loads of things going on. Come on, now's the chance, man.
All of which I stopped about a year ago.
Don't tell them that.
No, if you really want to sort of keep up with anything that I'm doing or any of my actual F1 or football opinions, it's probably best to follow me on Twitter, which is at L_G_Edwards. Or if you want to hear more of my F1 opinions, just subscribe to the Grid Talk podcast.
Nice one. I love the thumbs up as well, just so people know. People who are listening, Louis put the thumbs up there. So yeah, just leave a like and subscribe. Phil, I've mentioned that you're part of the Grip Strip podcast, and now's your chance to give a little elevator pitch on the GSP for us.
Yeah, thanks, George. I mean, you're a former guest on the show. I'm planning on having Tom Downey and all of his questionable comments that he makes on my show. So it'll actually be, or we'll figure out, I don't know where this content will happen, but during the summer break, there's going to be an episode with the two of us just going off on Formula One. So look out for that. Myself, Josh Fine, do cover all things motorsports, really. 2 wheels or 4 wheels. So IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, World Superbikes, MotoGP. As long as it goes fast, we usually talk about it on the Grip Strip podcast. We also talk about sports, other sports, at times, depending on the time of the year or whatever different events. So you can follow us at Grip Strip Pod on Twitter. You can follow me at Philip G. Mathew on Twitter, and Josh at JP Huffine, and he has a Twitch stream where he goes and does iRacing and other gaming, and he's pretty good at it. So if you wanted to watch that as well, we're also at philipgmathew.com. I used to write once upon a time. I've kind of put that on hold. I just pontificate on the podcast, and if you really want to hear what I think, then that's where you hear it, or you see it on our YouTube page. And then I come on whenever there's a chance for me to come on here. So thanks, George, and great to see you, Dev. It's been a while, and Louis as always. So thanks, everybody, and to Aiden for being the EP here.
Yeah, absolutely. Our little production team doing a great job as always. And yes, do definitely check out Phil's podcast, Grip Strip podcast. Honestly, I'm so looking forward to that podcast you're going to do with Tom Downey. You two are the cult heroes of Grid Talk, I'd say. You've got your own little fan clubs in the comments and reviews. So I can't wait to see you guys on a collision course and absolutely just no holds bar on Formula One. I cannot wait to see it. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And as well, I've got to give a mention to my website as well. Spotlight Pro has rebranded to the Football Chronicle now. So if you're into football, you want to check out a football site as well, check out footballchronicle.com. That's just got going, and there's a few articles on there already, some wrote by me as well. So yeah, very proud of that. So looking forward to seeing how that grows and everything. And yes, if you want to check out what we do on other platforms as well, we're also available on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, Pocket Cast, and the F1 Chronicle website, f1chronicle.com. In addition to YouTube as well, I think we're getting close to 700 subscribers on our YouTube channel. And of course, we live stream the episodes as they go out, like this one as well. So if you want to join in live chat, you're more than welcome. Any kind of comments, more than welcome, and we can discuss with you after the show. I would like
to add one point about the Hungarian Grand Prix, which is coming up. And this is just a random recollection of the fact, guys. 2017 Hungarian Grand Prix. And I think this is just one of the reasons why we have to look forward to Fernando Alonso. in the coming few days. Would you guys believe it? Who set the fastest lap in that 2017 race? A season where Mercedes versus Ferrari was at its peak. It was Fernando Alonso in that McLaren. Began 8th on the grid, finished 6th, scored points on the penultimate lap, set the fastest lap of the race. Just one of the reasons why Alonso is going to be so exciting to watch. And as Phil had rightly said, that it's such a successful track for him in the past.
Yeah, he won his first race there in 2003. And in 2017, a little fact for you, I was at that race. So I do know that fact.
You were awesome.
Yeah, my arms and my legs and my neck and everything were as red as a Ferrari shirt by the end because it was 35 degrees and beaming sunshine. Factor 50 can only go so far, I'm afraid. But yes, it was a hell of a time. I loved that race. I'd love to go back to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Highly recommend you go to that track if you ever get a chance to go to one in Europe. It's one of the cheapest ones, and the people are great. The circuit's fantastic viewing, and the weather's usually nice as well. And of course, the beer is very cheap, which goes down very well with the Germans and the Finns who flock to that track as well. So there we go. Can't complain there. So yeah, and if you want to hear some more action from the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, we'll be back at 5 p.m. BST on Saturday to analyse qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Thank you for joining us, lads, as always. Really do appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you.
Yes, guys. Thank you for having me on the show.
Always welcome. Yeah, thank you for coming on. And thank you as well to everybody who's listened and downloaded and watched this episode. We love every one of you. And yeah, we'll see you on Saturday for the next one. Thank you very much and goodbye. To be fair, it is midnight in India.
Yeah.
So it's fair enough. He does do that though. I remember he always used to do that. I'm like, Dev, why don't you stick around? We do stuff after. I just think he's a busy guy, Dev. It's good that he's come back on. I've missed him, to be fair. I've missed him on the show.
Yeah.
This lineup it felt like going back like a year and a half, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Unique perspectives.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Absolutely love him to bits. So let's have a look at. We've got quite a few comments in the live chat. Connor Walker, of course, as always. Hey guys, thank you very much as well, Connor. You know, you're always there for us at the end of the day. It's great to have you commenting on as always. Let's have a look. We've got Leom on here. I don't recognise your name. I don't know if you've been on before, but yeah, sorry for that.
Yeah.
Have you? Okay, I'm not on so much these days myself. So
yeah, he's been on a few that I've hosted.
Oh, that's good then. Yeah, so he's put, I agree. Doesn't matter who you're a fan of. Everybody wants to have a close fight, preferably with different teams and not one team. We got extremely spoiled by last year's title fight. Yeah, I mean, we said it all the time last year as well. You know, that it was the first time we had a title fight between two different drivers from two different teams since 2012. So 9 years at that point, 10 years now. So, you know, it's sad really. But at the end of the day, like we said with Mercedes when they were doing so well, you got to applaud Red Bull. They've absolutely turned things around. You know, double retirement in the first race and now cruising. Max Verstappen in particular, really.
Well, Ferrari are just doing what they did in 2015, 2017, 2018, a bit of 2019, where they look like, oh, Ferrari could really be in this. And then we quickly find out, no, they're not.
Or add 2010 and 2012 when Fred was driving for them and they had a chance to win the World Championship in both of those years and didn't either. So
don't remind me.
Yeah, I'm still not fully over 2012, I'll be honest with you. And again, I'm not a Ferrari fan. I just wanted to see Alonso win it because he was so damn good that year. But yeah, Jason Pettigrew echoes their sentiments as well. Charles and Ferrari have choked bad this year. I think Ferrari really, you can't really say that Leclerc's made many mistakes, really. I don't think the one in France was his mistake. And Silverstone, when he had the damage as well, I mean, that was 4 cars going into one corner. He just got unlucky, really. But there we go.
And he was on old tires because they didn't pit him for whatever reason. So was it really his fault either in that sense?
It was just dumb. I mean, that's one of many bad Ferrari strategies this year. It's shocking. I mean, I don't... There's obviously a lot that goes into it, but you just watch at home and you just think, how have they come to that decision? What are they thinking? You know, it's just bonkers. You know, why? I mean, yeah, it probably didn't change anything with Carlos Sainz. He probably would have finished 5th because of his penalty anyway if he didn't pit. But he would have had a chance of fourth at least. You pit him, you just eliminate any possibility of that.
Yeah.
And Max was on old tires too, right? So it's like everybody pitted, with the vast majority of the field pitted once. So it's like go in and maximize as much of the position as you can, and then let him use his pace, the pace he already had. I think he would have been able to get past Checo. And it's just giving away points is what it is. But then how many points? I mean, Charles said he gave away 32 points so far this year. I would venture to say there's more than that. But
I think him
that's the
personally,
same for him personally feels like. But
actually, it'll be this race in Imola as well.
Yeah, Imola as well.
They're the two that he said. I mean, and then you can add on some more for Silverstone. That's the team, obviously. Yeah, Spain as well.
Mechanicals and the team. Yeah,
it's just cost him probably over like 100 points this year.
Well, yeah, you think about the lead that he had early in the year after Australia. You know, very early days, of course, but it's a massive lead he had, and it's just completely swung the other way, and some.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate for him, definitely. Leon's also put, somebody said at the start of the season, Charles is a great driver, but during his long career in different classes, he was always sure to make certain critical errors that made him lose points. I don't know that much about his junior career. I know that in F2, and I've watched him in F2 at Spain, and he was just the class of the field. He was on another level to everybody. I remember watching him in 2017, and the guy's supremely talented, and everyone was seeing that. But yeah, he does have a mistake in him. We've seen it. I mean, Baku in qualifying a couple of years ago, he crashed. That could have cost him pole position. Monaco last year did cost him a start effectively. But
German
the guy also has incredible pace.
2018, 2019 German Grand Prix when he went off into the
the drag strip. Yeah, 2018. That he could have won that race definitely. No, 2019. It was Ferrari. Yeah, it had to be 2019.
Yeah, it was 2019.
Yeah, for some reason I forgot there was a race in 2019 at Hockenheim. I thought it was 2018, the last one.
Says I'm not often we go there now.
I know. I mean, I've said it in an old TikTok for F1 Chronicle. You know, why have we got places like France and Spain when we could be having Hockenheim and Nürburgring and Istanbul? You know, genuinely good tracks. Maybe Turkey doesn't have that much of a fan base. That's why we left there. But Germany's got a huge fan base for Formula One. And you've got Mercedes offering to subsidise the race effectively, and F1's still like, no, don't want it. I can't understand it.
Then you have two German drivers on the grid, one four-time world champion.
Yeah,
one of the most famous drivers to ever come into Formula One was a German. It boggles. It's like not having a race in Brazil. Like anytime they say that Brazil's going to leave the calendar, it's like you're leaving a huge market for Formula One because the Brazilians love Formula One.
Yeah, they do.
And that's without they don't really have they haven't had a real presence on the grid since Massa got hurt. You know, like, I mean, there have been Brazilian drivers on and off, but, you know, like Drogovic, I think he's Brazil, or no, he is. Yeah, but he isn't going to get a ride next year if he wins Formula 2. So it's like, you know, they don't. It's the same thing. It's like you're going to have 3 races in the United States, 2 of them at street courses, and then you're going to sport wash by going to all these Arab countries, but you can't race at classic circuits. And they're talking about Spa possibly having to go and have a swap or go and do alternate years with France, which nobody. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't care that Alpine's around or whatever. I'm over, you know, Paul Ricard. We don't need that. I'm not really. There's other tracks I'm not a fan of, but really, that's one of them that we don't need that. You know, they could run 20 Grand Prix, and you could actually have 20 solid races if you really wanted to, with some alternating rounds or whatever. But they should get rid of. I mean, I guess that's another story for another day, I guess. But you know,
but the thing is about Spa for me, there's some tracks. Take away the history and everything. Obviously, that is a reason to keep it. But take away the history. You can have what you would call a boring race around Spa and not many overtakes and all this and that. You know, someone can win by 20 seconds or whatever. but it's so damn cool to see those cars going around there. Monza's the same. Silverstone's the same. And for me personally, Monaco's the same. I know it's not for a lot of people, but I just love seeing the cars go around there. I could watch them do it all day just because of the skill or the speed or the closeness of the barriers or whatever it is. And there's not that many tracks like that. I mean, you mentioned France there. Just there's miles of runoff. There's miles of runoff. There's no real challenge there for me. And that's just a joke. And it shouldn't be on the calendar. Again, said it in a TikTok, but it's true. You know, it's just a joke. And if we're getting rid of Belgium, I mean, when Liberty came in, they said they're going to protect the classic races. Now is the time to prove it. Save Spa. You know, if you're going to do it for any track, do it for that. We need a race there.
Yeah, and there should definitely be a race in Germany when you have a major German manufacturer. You have 2 German drivers. I don't know how that's possible. There's no American driver as of yet. There isn't going to be one next year on the grid, probably the following year. And you're going to have 3 Grand Prix in the U.S. And I'm from the United States. I love COTA. I know a lot of people are not. There's a lot of people that don't like the track, but that's a perfectly fine racetrack. And last year was proof positive after a year or 2 away how big of a event it was and how big of a weekend it was. And they just absolutely – they have a Cup NASCAR triple header weekend, and they may have had 1/10 of the crowd size of what Formula One brought, you know, on a daily per day basis. You know, let it be. You know, like I get the Indianapolis is probably not in play anymore, but that's because I think they'd be more suited now. These cars and those since Penske took it over, they'd be fine going back to Indianapolis. Now, would the racing be great? I'm not so sure, but I would rather they go to Indianapolis and they go to COTA instead of wasting their time in the parking lot at Dolphin Stadium or Hard Rock Stadium and then driving around the streets of Las Vegas. That defeats the purpose to me. But I'm a purist. I'm a traditionalist in that sense. It's the same way as like I don't really understand why NASCAR wants to race in the LA Coliseum and then they also want to race on the streets of Chicago, but the people that run the sport want to run a street course race, and they want.
Unfortunately, I think for Formula One now, like you talk about COTA as an event, and I think that's what they want to create now. Every weekend, an event, you know, something big's happening, and that was blatantly obvious at Miami. Yeah, the race was an inconvenience to what most people were there for that weekand. It was there's 2 hours of noise, but I'm really here to, you know, chill in this place where I've paid thousands and thousands of dollars just to look cool, basically. And the track itself was dire. The race wasn't amazing. And I think that's why these classic tracks are losing it, because it's like, God, throw an event at Spa because the race itself is the event, but Liberty for some reason don't seem to like that. Because it can't really, like, you got to think of all the people that go to Spa. Spa is always packed. You see it, like the fact that you see the people in between the trees all along the track. They are packed in to get there. So surely running this for the interest of the fans is not an issue, because it's like Spa would be on my bucket list. I would love to go when it's not raining, but
yeah.
Good luck. You've been waiting for a while, I think.
And you think of the Silverstone, Monza, Monaco, Spa. These are the tracks that really define the F1 season. It's the ones that we always look forward to. And if we lose them, then it's like losing a part of Formula One in that sense. It'd be like if a team left. It's like it feels less.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And, you know, and that's the thing. I think you summed it well, Louis, by just saying, you know, everybody's in the trees and on. You know, I watched the race from one of the bankings by the bus stop, and it was brilliant. I loved it. You know, it was amazing. You know, I basically had a dirt seat. You know, but it was amazing. I loved it, and you know, it's a hell of a place to go to. But I think we've touched on why potentially Liberty wants to get rid of it, because it's in the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere. The weather's terrible most of the time. It's not a glamour event. You're not going to get the people that were going to Miami going to Spa. It's never going to happen, ever. and that's why they don't want to keep it, because Spa can never be one of these Super Bowl events that they want to create. That's what Liberty said. They wanted 20 Super Bowls a year. I'm sure they said that when they took over the sport, and they're never going to get that with Spa.
That's never going to happen anyway, because the fact is, a Super Bowl itself is a once a year thing. So in the NFL, and it is its own entity. You can't. It's like having the Premier League final, or having more like the Champions League final. That's a once a year thing, and you build up to it, and you're having these great teams from all across mostly, Europe or whatever, but you have these great teams all fighting to get to that point. Well, that's what the thing is about. You can't have 20 of those. It's just not feasible. Or 22 or 24, however many they keep on trying to do. This is not going to happen. You're going to tell me the Parmigiano Reggiano Grand Prix brings lots of people in just because it's in Italy? No. It's a terrible track. It was a terrible track back in the day. Once they neutered it, it was a good track before they neutered it. And now it's just a terrible track. I don't know what the heck the draw of going there is. It's just crazy. But I guess that's what Liberty wants people to watch Netflix, I guess. I don't know.
I was about to say, like, no one looks forward to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix unless there's something at stake. Think of 2010, there was something at stake. 2016, there was something at stake. Last year, there was something at stake. Every single race before that, you go, oh, it's Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go again.
Even with the changes to the track, it's still a crappy track.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's got better in my opinion, but it is not a good track. I think that. I think it's better than Paul Ricard.
Well, yeah.
There's not. I think Paul Ricard's the worst one on the calendar now. I think it's taken that crown from Sochi personally, but there we go.
But then you compare it to something like Brazil, where we always look forward to Brazil because Brazil's a great track, regardless of whether there is a championship at stake or not. It's still a great track. It provides great racing. And the fact that Formula One was close to losing that for some street track in Sao Paulo that was going to deforest a part of the Amazon.
That thing. So bad.
What we need, Liberty really need to understand the priorities here, that these tracks, they're there, use them.
Yeah.
Stop building new ones which are only going, let's face it, only going to be used once a year.
Yeah. It's just a shame, isn't it? But anyway, I should probably get going right now. Thank you, lads, for joining us. Aidan as well, thanks for being on the production team. And thanks to everybody who's joining the live chat as well. Jared Bradley, I saw your comment. Thank you. Hello to you as well. We'll see you on the weekend. So yeah, I'll 5 o'clock BST for both shows, qualifying and the race, just about an hour after both events end. Yeah. All right, lads. Well, yeah, enjoy the rest of the evening, enjoy the rest of the afternoon, Phil. And
yep, thanks.
Catch up soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. You all take care now.